What's your intention here today?
My intention is to wave this flag and keep Palestine in the public consciousness right now.
Okay. So do you support any prescribed group?
I do not support any prescribed group.
Okay.
I support a free Palestine and the end of genocide.
The way that you're behaving at the moment would lead me to believe that you may be. Give me suspicion of grounds to believe you could be.
What suspicion? That I've got a sign that says Free Gaza, I'm holding a Palestinian flag, and I have a sign that says Israel is committing genocide.
Yeah. My colleagues explained that the support of this, mentioning freedom of Gaza, Israel genocide, all of that, all will come under prescribed groups, which are terror groups that have been dictated by the government, all right, which we have suspicion to suggest that you're supporting, based on your actions here in the city with the flags and the posters that you've got up, right? If you don't provide us with your name and address, those are necessities for us to arrest you for offences against the terrorism acts for being part of a prescribed group. Express an opinion or belief that is supportive of a prescribed organisation. Now that you have done.
But that's ridiculous. You could end up arresting half the country
I didn't
for
make
that.
the legislation. If you're found down the high street later on, you'll probably find yourself arrestable for that offence. Because you've been warned not to.
So I can never do this again in Canterbury, in Kent.
It's an offence.
But now I can never hold this in public ever again.
Holding a flag, if you had just a flag, we'd probably say, be careful what you do.
Free Gaza?
Free Gaza, which is supporting
What about that?
action, and a sign of Israel committing genocide would be in line with...
What you're doing is giving us suspicion. We only need 2 out of 10 to give us suspicion that you support a Palestinian.
Morning. Bit cold today. So we take these gloves off so we can read. Now, continue on, but I've got this book here. What is the League of Nations by H. Wilson Harris. Harold. But this is an interesting book, written 1926. What is the League of Nations? How it began. On a close afternoon at the end of April 1919, the banqueting hall of the Quai d'Orsay in Paris was crowded with peace conference delegates and officials. A plenary session was in progress. M. Clemenceau in the chair leaned forward on the table, his hands in their inevitable grey gloves clasped in front of him. On his right was President Wilson, on his left Mr. Lloyd George. Round the horseshoe tables that filled the room, the 50 or 60 other plenipotentiaries were ranged.
Now, I'm going to casually mention to you something that's very scary indeed, and tell you what the alien agenda is, and it's going to sound very familiar. The alien agenda is the complete takeover of this planet, the killing off of 5/6 to 7/8 of the world's population by the year 2029. U.S. military has known about this for 45 years. They've told no one. As far as I know, I'm the only person standing before a crowd talking about the alien agenda, secretively.
Right, let's try that again. Got interrupted. Round the horseshoe tables that filled the room, the 50 or 60 other plenipotentiaries were ranged. The business before the Congress was the adoption of the Covenant of the League of Nations and the appointment of a council and a Secretary General for the League. How the League began. Well, World War I saw all these countries go to war and come out the other side of it and sit down at a table for a treaty purpose. The purpose of the League. Now, I won't go through all of this, but we have all these members signing there were 31 Allied signatories, of whom 3 never ratified the treaty and therefore never became members of the League, and 13 neutrals. One state, China, though it never signed the Treaty of Versailles, did sign and ratify the Treaty of Saint-Germain with Austria, which, like the treaties with Hungary and Bulgaria, also embodies the Covenant and entered the League that way. During that assembly, 6 new members were admitted. The total number of League members at the opening of the first assembly in 1920 was therefore 42. During that assembly, 6 new members were admitted and another 8 at the assemblies of 1921, 22, 23, 24 and 25. The membership of the League at the end of the 7th assembly being thus 56. The most notable absentees at that date were the United States, Russia, Mexico, Turkey and Egypt. The principal qualification for entry into the League is that of being a fully self-governing state, dominion or colony, though 1 or 2 of the original members, notably India, could hardly have passed that test. In addition to India, the 4 dominions of Canada, Australia, South Africa and New Zealand came in as full members independent of Great Britain, and the Irish Free State was admitted subsequently in 1923 on the same basis. So we have imperial conferences. We have this Treaty of Ayr, which is this Irish treaty, which leaves the United Kingdom with governance over Northern Ireland, but no claim over Ireland at all. Right, so 4 dominions of Canada, Australia, South Africa and New Zealand, independent. Now, the structure of the League and Labour, a court of international justice where disputes are settled in this manner. The Covenant provides 3 methods of settlement. Its provisions are briefly as follows. Disputes suitable for the Permanent Court of International Justice go to the court. Other disputes to be made the subject of arbitration by agreement between the parties, i.e. treaties. 3. Failing either of these courses, the whole matter to be brought before the League Council. So this book was written in 1926. The armament problem, dealing with too many arms between all these countries because someone took them over. Now, America didn't sign this until every other country had participated in its treaty obligations. This saw about the business side, humanitarian efforts. Humanitarian, we already went through that word in a previous video. This, the mandate system. This is where all of you get history wrong. Get history totally wrong. The mandate system embodied in Article 22 of the Covenant marks a new departure in colonial administration and creates a new status in international law. Oh, it's all colonial. No, it's a new status in international law. Australia became its own domain, king's domain, dominion. Right? The principal embodiment in this covenant, at the instance primarily of General Smuts, provided that certain territories in Africa, Asia and the Pacific belonging formerly to the defeated powers, Germany and Turkey, should be taken from their former owners, but neither given their independence nor annexed by the victors either as colonies or protectorates. They were, to put it shortly, to be put something in the position of a ward in civil law whose affairs are administered on his behalf by a trustee till he is of age to manage them himself. But I'm the beneficiary of the... Are you? What if your whole country is in a ward-like state? To those colonies and territories which, as a consequence of the late war, have ceased to be under the sovereignty of the states which formerly governed them, Great Britain, and which are inhabited by peoples not yet able to stand by themselves under the strenuous conditions of the modern world, there should be applied the principle that the well-being and development of such peoples form a sacred trust of civilization, and that securities for the performance of this trust should be embodied in this covenant. And we get to these categories of mandates, mandate A, mandate B, and mandate C categories. In these three categories, the mandates are allocated as follows, the name of the mandatory appearing in brackets. A, Palestine to Great Britain, Syria and Lebanon to France, Tanganyika to Great Britain, Togoland and Cameroons divided between Great Britain and France, Rwanda and Urundi, a part of the Tanganyika handed over to Belgium under mandate. C, Southwest Africa, Union of South Africa, Pacific Islands north of the equator to Japan, Samoa to New Zealand, German New Guinea to Australia, Nauru to the former British Empire, a shared island because it's a prison island. Go and look at the Nauru Act of 1907. A special word is called for regarding Iraq. This was always intended to be an A mandate with Great Britain as mandatory. Before, however, the terms of the mandate had ever been definitively approved by the League Council, it appeared to the British government that it would be well to contemplate an early grant of independence to Iraq, without the actual issue of a mandate to which the people of Iraq took some objection at all. That's worded weirdly because there's brackets. Right? Without the actual issue of a mandate at all. Now, the people of Iraq took some objection because they needed some military support, government and justice support, so they wanted a mandatory situation, but Great Britain went and embodied a treaty between Iraq, which then was brought to the table of the League of Nations. So we can see at the end of World War I that we have this situation 7 years later. Right? At the end of 7 years, the League of Nations was still incomplete. Two great states, Russia and the United States, were not members of it, nor were Egypt, Mexico, Afghanistan, or Turkey. Spain and Brazil had given notice of withdrawal. Apart from that, it included every state of importance in the civilized world. On the foundations laid by the Covenant, it had built up a comprehensive and efficient machinery for dealing with any task referred to it under its original constitution, or likely to devolve on it from other sources. It had, in particular, created the Permanent Court of International Justice, which introduced a new element of authority into legal relationships between nations. So there was no ICC, International Criminal Court of Justice, until the League of Nations. There was no disarmament of many countries around the world until the League of Nations. And the two major states here, Russia and the United States, went on to have a Cold War that lasted 50 years. A Cold War is a debt war. Now, what if all of these member countries were debtors? And what if these signatories or plenipotentiaries, like at the beginning, President Wilson and Lloyd George, are organising a debt repayment? You can't go to war with a creditor. You open yourselves up to war from all the other countries that creditor has control of. So how did the United Nations come about? If these agreements saw Australia become a sovereign state independent of Great Britain, saw the introduction of an international criminal court, and saw Australia take on a mandatory position over former German New Guinea. Who allowed a country like Australia to do that? All the other countries around the world. So we have more proof that Australia is independent of Great Britain and has been taken over since. Now, think about who's involved in this. Let's have a look at the list of the member nations quickly. Original Allied members: Belgium, Bolivia, Brazil, British Empire, Canada, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, India, China, Cuba, France, Greece, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras, Italy, Japan, Liberia, Nicaragua, Panama, Peru, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Serb, Croat, Slovene state, Siam, Czechoslovakia, and Uruguay. Original neutral members: Argentine Republic, Chile, Colombia, Denmark, Netherlands, Norway, Paraguay, Persia, Salvador, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and Venezuela. We also know Iran is called Persia in 1926, and Iraq came to a treaty with Great Britain. We also see that Great Britain was mandatory over Palestine, and Palestine was treated as a childlike state that needed to grow up and become itself. Something happened.
You are not Jewish. You are not Jewish. You are so misinformed. You want to kill the Jews who obey the Torah. You hate the Torah. You hate the Jews who obey the Torah.
Ergon fighters came and bombed the British. They came and bombed the British. They came and bombed your ancestors. Terrorised airfields, trains, and government buildings. And they took over Palestine and they turned it into the nation state Israel. Israel 1948. So 1926, we can see the world had come to a peace agreement. Someone wasn't having it. Someone wanted to come back and take what they believed was theirs. And it had nothing to do with the land. It had everything to do with a former British Empire and its banking cartel. We know this from the Civil War in the United States, where Abraham Lincoln set up the citizenship model and took everyone as prisoners of war.
You make a genocide. You make a Holocaust right now. You make a genocide.
Now, where were we in our reading? We read the burden of the desert sea, the burden of the valley of vision, the the burden of Tyre. Now, what I noticed in our reading, there are all these burdens that we've just gone through. Send ye a lamb to the ruler of the land, right, unto the mount of the daughter of Zion. The burden of Damascus, the burden of Egypt, the burden of the desert of the sea, which we did last time, the burden of the valley of vision, which we did last time, which got to this point where we were naked on the land and running with our buttocks free at the disgrace of Egypt. Adam was naked in the garden. Wasn't that the start? But here we have a story of takeover after takeover, to get underneath, to return to who you are as a people and run naked in those lands instead of with chains. So we'll have a look at this.
If you ask 100 people on the street, what kind of government is America supposed to be? 99% of them will tell you a democracy. But that's a lie. The word democracy is not written into the Constitution at one time. It's not in the Bill of Rights. It's not in the Declaration of Independence. The Founding Fathers hated the idea of a democracy. They thought it was the worst form of government there is. And I agree with them. Because in a democracy, 51% of the people control 49% of the people. If you're part of the 49%, you're not free. America was founded as a constitutional republic. And in that constitutional republic that we have, 99% of the people can't take away the rights of 1%. You have your rights because you were born with them, human rights that nobody can take away from you. The government, the majority, no matter who they are, I can't take away your rights. And that's what our founding fathers gave us. But the psychological operations that they do to us.
Dictionary. Plenipotentiary, plenipotentiary, plenarily, fully, completely, plenarious, plenariness, state of being plenary, plenati, occupancy by incumbent, plenary, full, entire, complete, plenary indulgence, remission of all church penalties due to sin, plenary inspiration, full inspiration of the sacred scriptures in every part. Plenipotent, possessing full power. Plenipotentiary, furnished with full powers, a person with full power. So a plenipotentiary at a treaty has the full power of a government or a country to enter into treaty obligations or covenants on behalf of those member countries.
Fake rebel leader Octavius Del Monte stormed Congress and pretended to kill several congressmen.
Hear my words, China, Japan, and the United Arab Emirates. The United States of America and all its vast debt no longer exists. Do not even try to collect funds owed.
The militants brandished plastic guns and wore costumes lawmakers stayed up late last night making themselves.
I believe you have the wrong room, sir. Oh! Now, what is the meaning of this?
Be quiet, woman!
After a 5-minute mock battle, Congress and the president ceded control of the nation to Octavius, who is believed to be played by Deputy Secretary of Agriculture Charles Connor.
You know how when someone dies and all their debts go away and no one has to pay them? Well, this is like that, except with countries.
Congress will also use computer graphics to simulate some of the fake coup's more complicated details, such as the explosion that blows up the Treasury building. Representatives on both sides of the aisle said the plan was the best option left for lowering our debt after ideas like burning down the country for the insurance money and disguising the nation as Canada were deemed infeasible.
Now, reading through this, I think we were up to chapter 22. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where we're going to to start off. I remember talking about the burden of the desert of the sea. Chapter 22. The burden of the valley of visions. What aileth thee now, that thou art wholly gone up to the housetops? Thou that art full of stirs, a tumultuous city, a joyous city, the slain men are not slain with the sword, nor dead in battle. They are slain with the dead legal fiction, or the citizenship of an administrating power that entered your country. All thy rulers are fled together, they are bound by the archers. All that are found in thee are bound together, which have fled from far. Therefore said, I look away from me, I will weep bitterly, labour not to comfort me, because of the spoiling of the daughter of my people. For it is a day of trouble, and of treading down, and of perplexity by the Lord God of hosts. Lord, capital L, lowercase o-r-d, God, all caps, of hosts in the valley of vision, breaking down the walls, and of crying to the mountains. It's pointing out this core foundation that is being pulled up. And Elam bare the quiver with chariots of men and horsemen, and Ker uncovered the shield. And it shall come to pass that the choicest valleys shall be full of chariots, and the horsemen shall set themselves in array at the gate. This would be direction, wouldn't it? A gate? How many gates are there in your city? And he discovered the covering of Judah, and thou didst look in that day at the armour of the house of the forest. The armour of the house of the forest. Now, if we look, wouldn't that be the forest of Lebanon, where all the cedars of Lebanon are? Would that not be this forest temple that you are supposed to look at? You have seen all the breaches of the city of David, that there are many, and ye gathered together the waters of the lower pool. And ye have numbered the houses of Jerusalem, and the houses have ye broken down to fortify the wall. Houses? How many houses in Jerusalem? Would this be some sort of sky story? Ye made also a ditch between the two walls for the water of the old pool, but ye have not looked unto the maker thereof, neither had respect unto him that fashioned it long ago. Fashioned it in a treaty, in the League of Nations, fashioned it in imperial conferences with your former master in Great Britain to become dominion or sovereign state, independent of Great Britain, with the full powers of a plenipotentiary. Interesting that. And in that day did the Lord God of hosts, capital L, lowercase o-r-d, all caps God, call to the weeping, and to the mourning, and to baldness, and to girding with sackcloth. And behold, joy and gladness, slaying oxen and killing sheep, eating flesh and drinking wine, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. Die?
God, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
What happened?
I was running on the trail and I stepped in some dog shit. And I sat down and tried to clean it off my shoe, and this guy come running by and he stepped in it. I laughed at him and said, I just did that. He come over and fucking punched me in the face like 3 times, called me a nasty son of a bitch.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
The slain men are not slain with the sword, nor dead in battle. Die. Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. Let the deader bury the deader. Thus saith the Lord God of hosts, Go, get thee unto this treasurer, even unto Shebna, which is over the house, and say, What hast thou here? And whom hast thou here, that thou hast hewed thee out a sepulchre here? And as that heweth him out a sepulchre on high, and that graveth an habitation for himself in a rock, a sepulchre, a shrine of remembrance, a big square building with a square inside it with a crypt room underneath. What hast thou here? I have a shrine of remembrance. And whom hast thou here? I have all the dead. That thou hast hewed thee out a sepulchre here. Well, I want to remember my dead. And he that heweth him out a sepulchre on high, and that graveth an habitation for himself in a rock, and that graveth, would that crypt room be a grave? Would that be a cemetery? Would that be remembering those that died so that you could be free? Would that be a foundation in a stone of remembrance? A rock? A rock. Behold, the Lord, all caps, will carry thee away with a mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots and thy glory shall be the shame of the Lord's house. Would you have joined a military-industrial complex with your citizenship and left God's estate to join another country because of your treasurer? Interesting that. So what is Australia versus a kingdom? What is the Great Seal of Australia versus the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia? We are talking about a treasurer here, aren't we? And I will drive thee from thy station, and from thy state shall he pull thee down. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will call my servant Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with thy robe, and strengthen him with thy girdle, and I will commit thy government into his hand, and he shall be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Does that sound like someone on a stone? Someone having done something long ago? What happens when you are occupied? What happens when the state treats you like a ward of the state? Would you be in a growing up position where you're all deluded children? Possibly.
Now, I want to understand why he would not release the Epstein files, why he would not tell us who Matthew Crooks was on the phone with. What is the answer, the practical answer for that? And Mark actually has something that I think is correct. He said that it is likely that he has come to a place where thinking that the public cannot handle the truth. that we can't handle it, that it would undo everything. Because what would you do? What would you actually do? And I'm leaving this as an open-ended question. If Trump got on stage and was like, actually, the entire world is a stage. Nothing is real. Your freedoms aren't real. You've been enslaved by lies. There's a global government that's running everything. We control the media. We control the textbooks. And you're essentially just a patient in a very long-running MK Ultra experiment. Oh, and also the elites worship Satan. And yeah, they've been in control of human trafficking. What would you do? Like, literally, what would you do the next minute if he got on air and said all of that? If any president got on air and said all of that?
And the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open and none shall shut, and he shall shut and none shall open. When you're talking about a great seal and a line of authority, you're talking about the ability to seal something, close it down and make it a reality, or unseal something and disband it. And they shall hang upon him all the glory of his father's house, the offspring and the issue, all vessels of small quantity, from the vessels of cups, even to all the vessels of flagons. In that day, saith the Lord of hosts, Lord, all caps, shall the nail that is fastened in the sure place be removed, and be cut down, and fall, and the burden that was upon it shall be cut off, for the Lord, all caps, has spoken it. So, to take this stone and follow these rules and listen to the words of the Scripture from the mind of a sovereign, you can see this claiming of a stone. You can see that this foreign takeover of what is essentially your grave, your crypt, where you bury your honoured, your dead. Now, 62,000 men in 6 states in a commonwealth, 11,500 in Victoria. The town up the road here has the most amount of men lost to a town. 880 men that served to defend were lost. Would that link that stone to the stone in your town? Would that king's domain link all your stones together? Chapter 23, the burden of Tyre. Howl, ye ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste, so that there is no house. No entering in from the land of Chittim, it is revealed to them. Be still, ye inhabitants of the isle, thou whom the merchants of Zidon that pass over the sea have replenished. Replenished. Let's look that word up quickly. Replenished. Our dictionary. Replenish. Again. Full. To fill up again. To fill completely. To stock with numbers, quantities, or in abundance. To finish. To complete. To recover former fullness. Would that have something to do with that word abeyance and a revival back to who you are underneath this Zionist machine that wants to run your country? right? You're not allowed to speak out against the masters, the Zionist warmongers, the death cult called Zionism. You're not allowed to speak out against that. Anti-Semite. What's a Semite? Let's clarify that on the courtroom record, shall we? What's a Semite? And what you'll find is they don't have a right. They're Israelis. They're not Israelites. Interesting that. Interesting that. You can't hate your master.
It's happening naturally, whether he says it or not. We recognize something has gone awry in every regards. We realize that these people are not making us healthier, whether it's with vaccines. It's for your health. The government wants to help. No, the government does not want to help. No, Bill Gates is not a good guy. No, if you are signed up to A Shot in the Dark, my series on the history of vaccines, it's terrifying when we get into birth control. We start talking about Bill Gates and his initiative in Africa. I know a lot of people from Africa watch this show. My goodness, what they were trying to tell the public. Hey, yeah, it's making people infertile. That's like a thing. That they were experimenting on people that were in insane asylums, women that were in insane asylums, because they were maybe awake to some of the evil that was happening at that time. I mean, it is dark. It is really dark what's been going on. And only the truth, truly, not to sound cheesy, but it is really only the truth that is going to free us from what's happening.
For you will what? Love one and hate the other? Love one, hate the Zionist? Love your Melbourne? Love your Brisbane? Love your Perth? Love your Commonwealth? Grounded in the sun, the moon and the stars? You'll love that, and you'll begin to hate what manages you.
You make a genocide. You make a Holocaust right now. You make a genocide.
And by great waters, the seed of Seher, the harvest of the river, is her revenue, and she is a mart of nations. Something was taken out of the river 7 times? 8. Be thou ashamed, O Zidon, for the sea hath spoken, even the strength of the sea, saying, I travail not, nor bring forth children, neither do I nourish up young men, nor bring up virgins. As the report concerning Egypt, so shall they be sorely pained at the report of Tyre. Severely pained. Is Tyre collapsing? Pass ye over to Tarshish. Howl, ye inhabitants of the isle. Now we discussed how that isle came to be by you returning to something in your nakedness. Render unto Caesar all that was Caesar's. Give back to this Australian government all that is this Australian government's, including its Reserve Bank note, according to the Treasurer. What does Section 115 of your Constitution say? And why don't you honour it?
Purely a digital concentration camp. It's a slavery system.
When Catherine Austin Fitts talks, we should listen. She's a former high-level investment banker in New York and held senior office in the first Bush administration in Washington.
There may be 1,000 models of how it could work. But essentially, you will have, whether it's a banking account or a credit card, and it can be turned off and on. So my incentive system is not you go to work and work hard and you get money. My incentive system can be based on how you behaved in the last 5 minutes, on a 24/7 basis.
CBDCs, as the name suggests, would be issued by central banks like the Federal Reserve in America and the Bank of England, not by high street banks. They would signal the end of cash, and every transaction you make would be transparent and held on a permanent database. Crucially, under a net zero regime, your carbon footprint could be at the heart of the system.
We're developing
through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker.
This can be the infrastructure for a carbon credit system. It's totalitarian control, and if people don't become aware of it now, it's going to be too late to backtrack from this. It's a ratchet system where it's very difficult, if not impossible, to backtrack.
Pass ye over to Tarshish, howl, ye inhabitants of the isle. Is this your joyous city, whose antiquity is of ancient days? Her own feet shall carry her afar off to sojourn. Sojourn, that's a weird word. What does that mean? Let's have a look. Sojourn, under and daily, to dwell for a time, to live in a place as a temporary resident or as a stranger. A temporary residence as that of a traveller in a foreign land. Sojourner, temporary resident, a stranger or traveller that dwells in a place for a time. Sojourning, act of dwelling in a land or place for a time, also the time of such abode. Sojournment, the act of sojourning. The act of sojourning. So, a foreign land, not your land, not naked. Is this your joyous city, whose antiquity is of ancient days? Her own feet shall carry her afar off to sojourn. Your own town will sojourn in a foreign jurisdiction. Might that be an administrator because of your treasury? Interesting that. Who hath taken this counsel against Tyre, the crowning city? Who hath taken this counsel against Melbourne, the crowning city? Whose merchants are princes, whose traffickers are honourable of the earth. The Lord of hosts, all caps, hath purposed it to stain the pride of all glory and to bring into contempt all the honourable of the earth. To bring into contempt. Let's have a look. Contempt. Contemporary. Living, acting, or happening at the same time. One that lives at the same time with another. Contempt, act of contemning, disdain, scorn, the state of being despised, shame, disgrace, disobedience of the rules and orders of a court of kings, the crowning city in the king's domain. Contemptible, worthy of contempt, despicable, contemptibly, despicably, contemptuous, expressing contempt or disdain, scornful, contemptuously, in a contemptuous manner, contemptuousness, disposition to contempt, disdain, scorn. Interesting, right? Contempt for your king's stone. Contempt for a claim laid down 18 years ago. Failing to follow the laws of your foundations in your forefather's estate, joining a foreign estate, sojourning. Who hath taken this counsel against Tyre, the crowning city, whose merchants are princes? The Lord of hosts hath purposed it to stain the pride of all glory, and to bring into contempt all the honourable of the earth. So you're sojourning with a foreign power, and that is bringing contempt to your own selves, because you disrespect your forefathers' foundations to be a citizenship of a Abraham Lincoln citizenship machine, somewhat linked to a papist regime. And what happened when the Pope called in all movable property and said, I'm off home, I've had enough of playing this game, bring all my gold with me, and bring my George Pell that got convicted out of Australia, and bring him home with me too. If you don't, I'll drop bombs. Pass through thy land as a river, O daughter of Tarshish. There is no more strength. He stretched out his hand over the sea. He shook the kingdoms. The Lord, all caps, hath given a commandment against the merchant city, to destroy the strongholds thereof. The Lord gave a commandment to the city to destroy the strongholds of the crowned city. What strongholds are they talking about? Are they talking about a reserve bank? And he said, Thou shalt no more rejoice, O thou oppressed virgin, daughter of Zidon. Arise, pass over to Chittim. There also shalt thou have no rest. Work, pay off those debts. Behold the land of the Chaldeans. This people was not, till the Assyrian founded it for them, that they dwell in the wilderness. They set up the towers thereof, they raised up the palaces thereof, and brought it to ruin. Sound like this? War? To come to some sort of peace agreement amongst nations? Howl, ye ships of Tarshish, for your strength is laid waste. And it shall come to pass in that day that Tyre shall be forgotten 70 years, according to the days of one king. After the end of 70 years shall Tyre sing as an harlot. A harlot. A harlot. Let's look that word up. Harlot. A prostitute. A common woman. A wanton. Lewd. Low. Harlotry. The trade or practice of prostitution. You become a prostitute. You become a whore, a prostitute. Right? After the end of 70 years shall Tyre sing out as a harlot. And it shall come to pass in that day that Tyre shall be forgotten 70 years. We're going to put you under peacekeeping for 75 years of peacekeeping, according to the days of foreign king that controls your land. And after the end of those 75 years of peacekeeping, you won't have any grace. You'll be a disgrace. You'll be a prostitute selling yourself for a coin because you have nothing else in your treasury. And it shall come to pass in that day that you shall be forgotten 70 years. Take a harp, go about the city, thou harlot, that thou hast been forgotten. Make sweet melody, sing many songs, that thou mayest be remembered. And in the morning we shall remember them, lest ye forget what Remembrance Day is all about. Remembering Day. And it shall come to pass after the end of 70 years that the Lord, all caps, will visit Tyre, and she shall turn to her hire, and shall commit fornication with all the kingdoms of the world upon the face of the earth. Because you're a prostitute. Try to sell yourself for some gain. And her merchandise and her hire shall be holiness to the Lord, all caps. It shall not be treasured nor laid up, for her merchandise shall be for them that dwell before the Lord, all caps, to eat sufficiently and for durable clothing. To eat sufficiently. After 75 years of peacekeeping. Well, that's not what's going on, is it? The price of food tripled. The price of fuel went up a third. Your rent went up double. The price of a house went up 1,000%. When do you realise? Chapter 24. Behold, the Lord, all caps, maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof. Now I warned you that Albo was trying to replace you. Albo doesn't give a crap about Australians. Albo doesn't run the country. Albo runs an administration with a reserve bank. Now, do you remember a couple of years ago they talked about the government going to war with the reserve bank? Do you remember that? Do these things strike an accord with any of you? Sojourning in another land while you're on your land? Contempt for your own country while you take from an administrator and see your country fall into demise? Interesting that. And it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. Master, servant, employer, employee, maid, mistress, employer, employee. Now in this, and before this, they agreed that slavery was unlawful. And Abraham Lincoln emancipated the slaves. He said to those slaves, I'll set you free as long as you follow my rules instead. I'll make you a citizen of my Abraham Lincoln citizenship machine and give you your freedom that way. You're not free. You're my prisoner of war who's obligated to follow all my rules. Would that have led you here with your treasury? Would this have given you your ability to pay that off as an independent governing state? Why are you relying on a foreign king in a foreign land? The land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for the Lord, all caps, has spoken this word. Nationality and Citizenship Act 1948. Australian Citizenship Act 1973. The Commonwealth shall be empty. You'll all board Abraham Lincoln's citizenship machine. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. Haughty. Fadeth away. Did you forget, lest ye forget? Well, what were you taught not to forget? Let's be specific here. What were you taught not to forget? Did you forget it? Did you forget it? Haugh, H-A-U-G-H, a piece of low-lying flat ground, usually in the vicinity of a river, a kind meadow. Haughtily, in a haughty manner, proudly, arrogantly. Haughtiness, quality of being haughty, arrogance, disdain, superciliousness, loftiness, haughty, high, lofty, having high opinion of oneself, with contempt for others, proud, disdainful, arrogant, imperious, insolent. Insolent. Did you do that in an insolent manner? The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant, lest ye forget. Broken that stone of remembrance, an anchor point to go and join a foreign administrating power, therefore forgetting your foundations as a people. Forgetting them. We don't need them. I've got the Reserve Bank. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men are left. Few cities are left. In Australia, I don't think there is a city left. You're all dependent. The new wine mourneth, the vine languisheth, and all the merry-hearted do sigh. The mirth of Tabrez ceaseth, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joy of the harp ceaseth. They shall not drink wine with a song, strong drink shall be bitter to them that drink it. The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in. The city of confusion, Melbourne, is broken down. Then they bring in Arms Expo and use non-lethal weapons on all of the people out the front of the Arms Expo flexing. Oh, look at us, we control you. Pew, 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 pew. Run to the king's domain. Pew, 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 pew. Keep running. We're coming. Pew, 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 pew. And you watched it happen. You totally watched it happen. The city of confused children, all running around like Chicken Littles. Whoa, the sky's falling. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. Mirth. Another word. Let's play word dictionary day today. Mirth. M-I-R-T-H. Mirth, noise, gaiety, noisy gaiety, merriment, joyousness, joyousness. There is a crying for wine in the streets. There's a crying for wisdom in the streets. All joy is darkened because we're dumb. And the mirth of the land is gone. The joy is gone. You're a woke shithole now, run by foreign occupying powers that want to divide and conquer you. They want to bring in 1 million immigrants, cause the price of your homes to go out of whack, while international monetary rates allow foreigners to take all of your stuff while you can't afford to even feed yourselves. You can blame Albanese for that. You can blame Scott Morrison for that. You can blame Tony Abbott for that. You can blame Malcolm Turnbull for that. You can blame every Prime Minister going back to Bob Hawke and before. 1973. Demise of the Currency Act, 1965. All joy ceaseth. The city of confusion is full of children that only give a shit about themselves. And now there's no joy. There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. In the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. They took your pool of reflection out, and they put a second cross on your north line, and they pulled your spirit out of the temple and put it on the forecourt on a ship's mast. And behind that stone, through that flame, you'll see a building. I'd like you to go and have a look. What does it look like? You tell me in the comments, what does that look like? Is that a message to you? In the city is left desolation, and the gate is smitten with destruction. When thus it shall be in the midst of the land among the people, there shall be as the shaking of an olive tree, and as the gleaning grapes when the vintage is done. They shall lift up their voice, and they shall sing for the majesty of the Lord, all caps. They shall cry aloud from the sea, because you're no longer on the land. You joined a citizenship. You joined an Abraham Lincoln citizenship machine, which bankrupted you, drove you into poverty, took everything out from underneath your feet, administered you down to nothing. Then you forgot, lest ye forget who you are, where your foundations were laid, why they were important. Wherefore glorify ye the Lord in the fires, even the name of the Lord God of the sun, the moon, and the stars, in the isles of the sea. In the isles of the sea. Glorify ye, you, the Lord, all caps, that gave you this, so you could make claim from the sea. You could send out a bird and hope for a dove to come back. Wherefore glorify ye the Lord in the fires. From the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs, even, italics, glory to the righteous. But, I said, my leanness, woe unto me, the treacherous dealers have dealt treacherously. Yeah, the treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. Even, italics, in pairs. I said, my leanness, woe unto me. The treacherous dealers have dealt very treacherously. This was honourable, the League of Nations. Someone wasn't happy with this position at international law and had to go and create World War II. Then after taking over the crown in London, they had to create a nation state to bastardize the faith. Liars. Treacherous dealers, dealing treacherously. Fear and the pit and the snare are upon thee, O inhabitant of the earth. And it shall come to pass that he who fleeth from the noise of the fear shall fall into the pit. Are you going to run from the fear and fall into the pit? And he that cometh up out of the midst of the pit shall be taken in the snare. For the windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. Windows from on high? Windows. We look out of windows, and other people look in from windows. What windows are we talking about here? What windows? The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. Dissolved? I think the Constitution said an indissoluble federal commonwealth. I don't think it said indissoluble democracy. It said an indissoluble federal commonwealth, not a democracy. Would it be the democracy that broke you down? Would it be the democracy that tried to dissolve your constitution through your treasury? The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall, and not rise again. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord, all caps, shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days shall they be visited. Then the moon shall be confounded, and the sun ashamed, when the Lord of hosts, all caps, shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his ancients gloriously. Do we see now that Isis, Ra, and Elohim form the sun, the moon, and the stars, and they don't form a bastardized nation state in a mandatory Palestine? Mandatory Palestine. A child that was given the ability to grow up and supported to do so by the international community until Zionists came along and pulled their bastardization of the faith by trying to play out literally on the ground something that appears in the heavens. Think about that. We'll look at chapter 25 next time.
I like to be a pirate's life for me. All my friends are pirates and they say on the BBC. I got a jolly Roger, it's a black and white and fast. So get out of your skull and crossbones and run it up your mast. With yo ho ho and ha ha dee ha ha ho. Yo ho ho and ha ha yo.
Now, I'm only able to sit here with your donations. Otherwise, I've got to go out and get a real job, which will put me in a position of not being able to do any of this. I can't speak if I don't have time to speak. I can't sit here and edit if I don't have the support to do that. I also want to do things like build a cafe in a trailer so that I can go and earn some money. So if you find this useful, say thank you and drop a donation down in the link below. Now, I haven't had time to look at this website. I've been looking at a couple of things here on the property, and I will put them together in video because I have a couple of things to sell, but I want to finish building them first. So when we get to that point, I'll show you in a video what I've been working on. But until then, chuck a donation down in below and we will continue going. It's very evident now that you can see what has been left for you around the country is very specifically in the name of God. And you can see that your joining of the League of Nations in 1919 backs this up. You're independent of Great Britain. You gained your sovereign position at international law in a new status of sovereignty recognised in international law that is not colonialism. So you've been lied to. You've been lied to by Albanese and his government. You've been lied to by Scott Morrison and his government. You've been lied to by Tony Abbott, Malcolm Turnbull. You've been lied to on a daily basis by Pauline Hanson. Pauline Hanson is one of the most flippant liars that you will witness in that parliament. You cannot trust that woman as far as you can throw her. You can't. Malcolm Roberts needs to answer as to why he serves a Zionist state over and above your own Commonwealth of Australia. We can get to that point if we stand up as those people and defend what was left for us and recognise a foreign administrating power dissolving what you are on purpose. We should also look into that administering power working on behalf of Zionism, which controls King Charles III. How did that come to be? Do you know your history? Do you know your kings and queens? Do you know where you came from at all? Is it starting to become clearer now? We will keep showing you if you keep dropping those donations in.